Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So, mein Name ist Kazi Atikur Rahman und ich komme aus Indien. Ich promoviere in Neurowissenschaft an der Charité. Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen, aber es ist nicht so gut. So, leider werde ich heute auf Englisch sprechen. So, now, excuse me. Sorry. Now that I've gone through the most difficult part of my presentation, I would like to talk about friendly fire. And what do I mean by friendly fire? I'm sure all of us here knows about Spiderman. I mean, he's a part of a group of superheroes called the Avengers, whose job profile is basically to protect us. But there was a time where he also looked like this. And this is not because he was in Berlin during winters, but it's because he was taken over by a symbiote who was controlling him and making him do things against his own team rather than working in favor of us. So this is exactly the concept of friendly fire. I would like to start off by making a correlation that our human body is basically like our palace or our mansion, or basically a kingdom, if you say. So in order to have a normal life, you need to have every part of your body functioning properly. In exact same manner, in order to have a prosperous kingdom, you need every unit of the kingdom well organized. And if history has taught us one thing, it is that all these kingdoms are in constant attack by a lot of other invaders. So in order to protect the palace or the kingdom from these invaders, we have our own army of soldiers. In the exact same manner, the human body is under constant threat of a lot of other microorganisms, pathogens. And since this is the real world, most of them look really, really deadly and more toxic than the ones that you just saw. So in order to fight these deadly-looking viruses, we have our own team of warriors called the immune cells. And together they are called the immune system. And that's how they look. And each of them have a specific task. Of course, they can switch between tasks, but majorly they have one particular task that they have to do. Like the first cell, the task of the first cell is to find a pathogen, eat it, and show it to the next one. The next one finds it and then calls the other cell, the B cell, or sometimes even tries to kill it by himself. The B cell has a very special role. It generates tags or antibodies and puts it on these pathogens so that the next cell, our Hulk here, basically can recognize what is outside and what is our own and eat the ones that should be eaten. And here you see a short video of one of these macrophages going around trying to eat a bacteria that has entered the human body. But that's how the immune system should work. But there are some cases where our immune system and certain cells of the immune system goes crazy, specifically the B cell. And in that case, instead, they produce a lot of antibodies, basically these tags, and instead of tagging the pathogens, they tag our own cells. Just like our Spiderman, who went rogue and was killing or was acting against his own team. And this can be caused because of several reasons. One of them is basically the environment you live in, your life choices. And sometimes even we are sometimes born with certain factors that makes us more susceptible to get these kind of disorders. Ultimately, what happens is, because of the wrong tags, these macrophages go and eat our own cells. And this is what is called autoimmunity or friendly fire. So this is a list of the most common autoimmune disorders, of which what I work on during my PhD is Antinmda receptorencephalitis for two reasons. First, it makes me sound smart. And second, because it is a disorder of one of the most complicated but yet fascinating organ of our body, the human brain. So in this particular disorder, the B cells produce these tags that bind to a very important component of our human brain. And this causes the whole immune system to act against our own brain. The patients who suffer from this disorder go from being completely normal to having problems in speaking, problems in thinking, doing daily tasks, having epileptic seizures within a span of weeks or sometimes even days. It's a very devastating disease. And a very vivid account of what it feels like to live with such a disorder is mentioned in the book called Brain on Fire by one of the first patients who was diagnosed with this disorder. There's also a movie on Netflix of the same name called Brain on Fire. I would highly recommend you guys to go and watch it, if you have the time, or if you're interested in neuroscience. But in order to treat in order to treat any disorder, what we need to understand is why the disease is caused in the first place and what really happens when the disease is caused. So in this particular disorder, it is known that it is associated with some forms of cancers where the immune system actually wants to protect you from that cancer but ends up putting these tags on your brain. Sometimes even some viral infections can trigger the particular disease. But what really happens in this disease? Since brain is a very protected organ, the rules of the periphery or the other parts of the body doesn't really apply to the brain. So we still don't know what happens when these tags are put on the brain. Do these cells go and eat these tags? And if they eat, do they eat just the tags or they eat some other regions of the brain? And if they do eat, does it lead to a loss of substantial part of our brain? It is still not known. And that's exactly what I'm trying to study in my PhD. And the ultimate goal of my PhD is to work with drugs that reduces this immune reaction so that our immune system can not cause that much damage to our own cells. So ultimately, I would say the moral of the story or the take-home message from this talk would be that just as Spiderman, when he went rogue, you cannot remove him because he's a very important part of the team. In the same way, when some cells of our own immune system goes rogue and tries to harm us, it's not that we don't need them. We just need a way to to turn them back in order so that they work for us instead of working against us. Oops. Sorry, I was basically coming to the end of my presentation, but if you guys allow me, I have some important other tasks to do. Thank you.